lute and the voice. So in harmony, so harmony is what this talk today is about. And then he has made an opportunity for Sakka to come down, and then Sakka comes down, and then they have the conversation between Sakka and the Buddha. So this is one of the most powerful beings in the world, the ruler of the gods. It makes the rulers of humanity look like puny little kind of, playthings by comparison. So what is this conversation between the ruler of the gods and the Buddha? And this is where it gets very interesting here, because the ruler of the gods, as you might expect, has a very beautiful question, a very profound question that he asks of the Buddha. And the question is the following here. It is, why is it when all human beings, in fact not just human beings, all beings in general, they want peace, they want harmony, they don't want conflict, they don't want war, they want everyone to be able to live together in friendliness. Why is it when everyone wants this, we still have so much conflict in the world, so much disharmony, so many wars going on? Isn't that a great question? In our hearts, we don't want, no one likes war, no one wants disharmony, no one wants conflict. Well, if that is the case, how come we cannot live without these things? Why is it that we cannot live in this way if that is what we really want? And it is strange to me that this question is not a question that you find usually asked in human society, but it's because it is a very, very good question. This is our desire. So what does the Buddha say to this? So now maybe you think that the Buddha is going to give us the answer, and once we have the answer, what we have to do is just implement that answer, and then we will have harmony. It's not as simple as that, right? You're shaking your head over there. That's good. So you have, you know what is going on. So what the Buddha does, he says, well, the reason why it is like this, even though we want peace and harmony, we can't do it. The reason is, one of the first things he says is because of the desire and the ill will, the aversion in the human mind. Desires create conflict. They create problems in the world. And then Sakka asks, well, why are there these desires and aversions and ill will in the world? Where do they come from? And then the Buddha tells him why that is the case. And it takes it back stage by stage. And every time the Buddha gives an answer, Sakka asks, well, why is that the case? Goes back and back and back. This is a classic way how the Dhamma is always taught as a sequence of conditions. One thing leading to the next one. This is what we see in things like paticca samuppada, dependent origination sequence. Similar kind of idea. So the Buddha takes it back and back and back, coming to the root cause of why there is conflict in the world, why there is disharmony in the world. So what is that root cause? That root cause, says the Buddha, is something called papancha. Papancha is the proliferation of the mind. And papancha, in turn, comes from the sense of self that we have inside of us. It is driven by the sense of self. So the sense of self is the reason why there is disharmony in the world, why we have conflict, why there is wars, why there is all of these kind of problems. So what do you think? Is that interesting? That is very interesting, isn't it? Because once you understand that, you understand something about the nature of these things. You understand, first of all, well, if it is the sense of self that is the root cause of all the problems, then actually what that means is that we are never going to be able to entirely eliminate conflict and disharmony in our society, because you cannot eliminate the sense of self from everyone. Have you tried to eliminate the sense of self? Difficult, you try, and as hard as you might try, actually it's very hard to do this. So the first thing is that you can never really eliminate it completely, because you cannot eliminate the sense of self society-wide. That actually isn't impossible. The elimination of the sense of self in Buddhism, that is what awakening is about. That is the spiritual path of individuals, not of societies as a whole. So that means that there will always be a degree of conflict in our society. Yeah, it's impossible to eliminate it completely. And one of the interesting consequences of that is that we should never really look for utopian societies. If you look for utopia, you will always come short, because it is impossible to have a utopian society. And that is a very powerful insight. It is something that maybe Buddhism can add to the political discourse in the world, because we have seen how much damage has been done in the history of humanity because of the idea of utopias. I was recently visiting Vietnam, and next door to Vietnam is Cambodia. Yeah, Cambodia, we know what happened in Cambodia back in the 1970s. Terrible things happened because basically the faith and the belief in utopia, which actually is impossible. So this is already a very useful thing. Yeah, we don't take our kind of ideas too seriously and try to create what is impossible. So that is the first thing here. The second thing to understand is that even though it is impossible to eliminate problems, we can still do better. Yeah, it doesn't mean that we cannot do better in our societies. We can still do better. We can still produce policies and ways of living our lives in society that actually produce better societies. That means we shouldn't give up. We should just know the limits of what is possible. Yeah, that is the important point. So what is an example of how to, I think the Singaporean government will be very happy with me. I'm going to tell them how to kind of be a little bit more harmony, yeah? So they will enjoy that. So you have to kind of, you have to sort of, because we have to work together, as they say. So what is an example of this? And I will give you one very good example. And this is something that you can use in your own life. Yeah, I'm here to kind of give you practical advice. So this is a way to do things in your own life. So remember, one of the big problems that we had in the Buddhist world only a few years ago was the Rohingyas in Myanmar. Yeah, there was a big problem in Myanmar, and some of the Buddhist leaders said that the Muslims, the Rohingyas, were very dangerous. Remember that? Yeah, they were concerned about the Rohingyas maybe doing something bad to Buddhism or whatever. This was kind of the problem there. There was some kind of conflict between the Rohingyas, and they thought the Muslims might somehow damage Buddhism. And so they started saying very bad things about the Rohingyas, saying that they need to be expelled from our society and all of these kind of things. And that was very, very bad PR for Buddhism. Yeah, sometimes we'd kind of shoot ourselves in the foot. And those monks in Myanmar who were saying these things, they were definitely shooting themselves in the foot. I don't know how many holes they had in the feet, but there were quite a few holes in the feet, yeah, after shooting in the wrong way and doing kind of stupid things. And so the reason why they did that was because of the sense of identity. Identify with Buddhism. I am a Buddhist. And then when someone comes in that seems to threaten Buddhism, they are threatening you personally because you identify as a Buddhist. And that is why you get so upset. You see what I mean? Yeah, your sense of self takes Buddhism as part of its identity. And when someone threatens Buddhism, it is like it is threatening you personally. And so please don't think like that in Singapore. This is the wrong way of thinking here. Because if you identify yourself too much as a Buddhist, what happens is that other groups can very easily become your enemies. Yeah, they can look dangerous to you. So I will tell you how to identify here. Are you ready for this? Yes, this is important. Yeah, how should we identify? If it is not such a good idea to identify too strongly with Buddhism, what is a right kind of identity? You will notice the funny thing in Buddhism is that everything is either right or wrong, yeah? So identity can be right or wrong. Ultimately, it might be bad, but it's also right and wrong identity. Sometimes we say in Buddhism that craving is bad. Yeah, craving is no good, yeah? But there's also something called right craving here. Did you know that? Yeah, so everything kind of, this right attachment, everyone says, I'm a Buddhist, I must not be attached. Actually, you have no choice. You have to attach. So don't think like that. It's the wrong way of thinking. There is wrong attachment and right attachment. So make sure you attach in the right way. In the same way, there is wrong identity and right identity. So what is the right way of identifying? Instead of identifying with the group, I am a Buddhist, identify with the practice of Buddhism. I am a practicing Buddhist. And of course, if you identify as a practicing Buddhist, it means you identify with kindness. You identify with compassion. You identify with peace. You identify with wisdom. You identify with all those beautiful qualities that we are trying to develop in our Buddhist lives. Yeah, and if you identify with those things, when you say the Muslim coming into the country, instead of asking them to leave, you invite them to your house. And you say, come in, I will offer you a meal. I can see how terrible and difficult it is to be a Muslim from Bangladesh. It's really hard. Yeah, and then you open up the door of your heart and you do something positive. And if you treat the Muslims like that, they will become your friends. Yeah, there will never be a danger to Buddhism at all because you're opening up your heart to them. That is the right way. I remember, it was quite recently with the war in Ukraine and all of that, how that hospitality happened. This was in Poland. Poland is the neighboring country of Ukraine, and I go to Poland usually every year, and when I was there I could see the military vehicles on the highway and all of these kind of things. But the Polish people had that sense of hospitality. When the Ukrainians started to come across the border in the millions, very, very large number, the Polish people became known for opening the doors of the houses, inviting in the refugees. Welcome, take this room over there, take a bed, we will feed you. It's such a beautiful thing. And you can imagine the kind of harmony you create between the Ukrainians and the Polish when you have that kind of attitude. That is the right way of living in the world. And if you live in this kind of way because you understand the danger of identity, the danger of identifying in the wrong way, you start to change your identity, you move in a different direction, then you are using this idea of the sense of self in a positive way that will actually lead to something positive in society. Does this make sense to everyone? Yeah? Wow. Sometimes you talk, you have no idea if anyone really understands what you're saying. So I'm very glad that you have some idea what I'm talking about. That's wonderful. So this is the first consequence of this, understanding from the danger of the sense of self how to do that. So be very careful in your own life. Identify in a good way. Don't identify in a bad way. Yeah? Identify with kindness principles. Then when you kind of take up the committee job in the BF committee or whatever Buddhist society you're in, you don't argue so much. Instead, you ask, how can I be kind? How can I help, be of service? How can I do the right thing? You let go of your own ideas to take on the ideas of the larger committee. You become much more malleable and better person to deal with as a consequence. So this is the first lesson of this. The second lesson of this is that if there is no ultimate ending of conflict in our society, if final harmony is impossible, if there is no utopia, if you go down the track, there's always going to be another war down the track, there's always going to be more problems down the world, into the future. This is a very Buddhist way of thinking about the world. One of the differences between Buddhism and much of the rest of human society is that much of human society thinks of time as linear. We're moving from a starting point and we're going to some kind of end goal. But Buddhism is much more pessimistic than that. Buddhism has a bad name, right? All about dukkha, suffering, and kind of really pessimistic. Actually, Buddhism has some very good things as well. But Buddhism has the idea of cyclical time, We don't start somewhere and kind of end up over here. We kind of go in cycles, large cycles, like universal cycles. And what that means is that we always tend to come back roughly to where we started out. And so there's never any final solutions. There's just more of the same down the track. And so once we understand that there's always another disharmony, another war, another problem coming around the horizon, After a while, you start to get a bit fed up with that. Yeah, you think, enough of all of this. Yeah, I don't really want to have another war. I don't want to have more disharmony. And so then the spiritual path becomes incredibly important because the spiritual path is that thing that actually leads out of this problem, that takes you in the right direction. When you understand that the world is always going to have problems to it, you start to value the spiritual life much more. And this is one of those very, very important things, yeah, that the Dhamma of the Buddha is extremely profound. It is about leaning in, understanding that the spiritual life has a fundamental value. It is ultimately the only way of finding true peace, true harmony. Harmony is found within, not without, not in society at large. This is where we find that harmony, and this is where we should look for it. And that is one of the very important results of understanding the world as it actually is. The sense of self can be eliminated within each one of us, and that is where harmony can then be achieved on that spiritual path. And I've already shown you a little bit how that is the case. And in a minute, I will show you more how that actually works. So this is like the first little sutta, yeah, how the Buddha traces back the root cause of the problem. And then that the answer then is to eliminate that root cause is through spiritual practice. That's how we can find real harmony. One of the great things in Buddhism is that there is such a thing as final harmony if we understand what it is. So this is number one. Number two. Please, welcome. We're just starting number two. This is very good timing, yeah? So now you can listen to number two. Number one is finished. If you want to hear number one, you have to listen to recording. But number two, whoa. So this is exhibit number two, yeah? Sutta number two. So sutta number two, what is that? Well, that is again, the Buddha shows us how harmony should not be achieved, but how it can be achieved. And this is a very famous simile in the suttas. Well, famous, it is a simile in the suttas. Every simile in the sutta is famous. Every sutta is really important, yeah? So when I say it is my favorite sutta, it means one of 10,000, yeah? Everyone is my favorite. That's kind of a nice way of thinking about it, because all the word of the Buddha, how can it not be your favorite? It has to be your favorite, yeah? So you have 10,000 favorite suttas. That's kind of nice. So this simile is the simile of the bird and the piece of meat. So you can imagine there's a bird that gets hold of a piece of meat. In the bird world, pieces of meat are very, very valuable. Yeah, it's very difficult for birds to get pieces of meat. Usually if the bird gets a worm or it gets a cockroach and then the bird is happy, but a piece of meat, very, very valuable because it's like, wow, so nice to get a piece of meat. So this bird gets a piece of meat and it flies off. But because meat is so valuable in the bird world, other birds go after it. Yes, the bird flies up into the air with a piece of meat in its beak, and then the bigger birds, the hawks, the eagles, the herons, the vultures, yeah, they go after that bird because they too want that meat. Everyone wants that meat. And so then they fly after it and they try to rip that meat out of the beak or out of the claws of that little bird that got the meat. Isn't that terrible? It's kind of terrible, right? When you see that, it's like, wow, no, it is so much suffering in the world of animals. Actually, you can see that in Bodhinyana Monastery. Bodhinyana Monastery is where I come from. Yeah, it's in Western Australia. That's where we live. Ajahn Brahm's monastery. Yeah, I'm kind of the baby monk. Ajahn Brahm is the big daddy monk. So I'm kind of hanging out with Ajahn Brahm. And if you come to our monastery, you will see the kangaroos. Have any one of you come to see the kangaroos? Yeah, you have come to see the kangaroos in our monastery. And maybe you think, if you haven't been there, maybe you think, oh, kangaroos are very cute. Is that what you think? You don't think so? Wow, you are so wise. I'm very, very impressed. Kangaroos are animals. They can be cute. Yeah, if they are afraid of you, they're kind of cute. But once they start to get confidence, they lose their cuteness. Just like human beings, you get too confident, you lose your cuteness sometimes. And sometimes they will fight each other. You know, you can imagine if you are a kangaroo, you always eat grass. and one day maybe I have some extra chocolate cake in my bowl. I give it to the kangaroo. It's like, wow, the eyes of the kangaroo become very large and kind of light up, because for a kangaroo it's very exciting. So you see the kind of the nature. Nature is very harsh. Nature is very rough. And the same thing with these birds and the piece of meat. And so they go after this bird. They try to rip the meat out of the claws, out of the beak of that small little bird. And if that small little bird doesn't let go of that piece of meat, it will die or have terrible suffering as a consequence. Yeah? It makes sense, right? Because of the problem. The fighting of the birds, basically, is so severe. And so this is the simile. And the simile is really about the world that we live in. That world is in common for all of us. Yeah, our inner world is a separate world, but that is kind of belongs to us personally, but the world outside, the world of monasteries, the world of restaurants, the worlds of jobs, the world of partners in our life, the world of entertainment and enjoyment and wealth and all of these things, that is what we have in common. And because we have that world in common, we are always competing in that world. Yeah, there's competition going on. We want the same jobs. We want the same money. We want the same beautiful houses. We want the same. This is the most difficult one of all. You want the same partners. Yeah, that is the really hard one, because we tend to like the same kind of people, and that the worst kind of things is the fighting over the same kind of partners. Yeah, just when you are young, you kind of, becoming, kind of looking around for a nice boyfriend or girlfriend. Yeah, the competition is often very strong and very kind of difficult. Or because we live with the world outside in common, we compete. And when we compete, there are winners and losers. When there's winners and losers, there is disharmony, there is conflict, there is problem. And sometimes there are wars and things as a result of that. That is how what the world is like. Yeah? Do you agree with me? Yeah? Anyone doesn't agree? Yeah, I see some nodding faces. That's good. I'm glad. It's okay to disagree, right? You're allowed to disagree with me. So, anyway. So this, it kind of makes sense when you think about it in this way. So what is the answer then? Well, the answer is that we have to be a little bit like that bird that lets go of the meat. If you hold on to the meat too much, if you hold on to the things in your life too much, there will guaranteed be disharmony in your life. So you have to relinquish, to let go a little bit, not hold on quite as hard as you did before. That is where the solution is to be found. And of course, how does that happen? Well, the way that happens is precisely through the spiritual practice. When you practice in the spiritual way, part of that is a little bit of letting go, a little bit of relaxing your grip on the world. And as you do that, you are contributing to harmony, non-conflict, and peace in your society. So by personally practicing the spiritual life, not only do you gain personal benefit, but you are contributing to peace in society as well. Isn't that beautiful? It's such a nice thing, yeah? It's kind of internal and external at the same time. It's a very powerful thing. And one of the ways that this works, I'm going to show you a number of ways in a second, but one of the ways that works is that if you, I don't know, some of you, I know, have tried to meditate a little bit. Some of you maybe never tried meditation practice. But for those of you who had a little bit of success in meditation, you know that your inner peace, when you become peaceful, depends on how you live in the world. And if you live in the world with kindness and care and compassion, that is where inner peace becomes possible. So if you find that inner peace, you understand automatically, intuitively, that you also have to live well in the world. The two things always go together, two sides of the same coin. Yeah, that is what you understand from this. And that's a very powerful insight right there. So we need more spiritual practice. Yeah, this is basically what the Buddha is saying here. Then, through that spiritual practice, things go well. And there's another sutta. This is the third sutta I bring up. If you think I'm not quoting enough suttas? Let me know. But this is the third one, yeah? So just, I don't know how many is a good number, but this is the third one anyway. This is known as the 𝐾𝐸𝑒𝑐𝑒 Sutta. And in the 𝐾𝐸𝑒𝑐𝑒 Sutta, the monks were arguing with each other. Yeah? Not so good, right? The monks arguing is not so nice. I don't know what you think. I know if lay Buddhists, they see the monks arguing, not so happy. Yeah, it's, oh, please don't argue. We are already arguing enough in lay life. We don't want our monks to argue, yeah? You want our monks to live at peace, to show the way forward to non-argument. We don't want the monks to, or the nuns also shouldn't really argue. But this was a case of the monks arguing in ancient India at the time of the Buddha. And then the Buddha, he went to those monks and he said, please don't argue. Yeah. Well, how can you argue like this? And then one of the monks, do you know what they said to the Buddha? This is kind of interesting. How do you relate to the Buddha? If the Buddha says, please don't argue, you would think, oh, yeah, of course, Venerable Sir, thank you for reminding us, we would stop arguing. That's what you would think they would say, yeah? But do they say that? No, they do not say that. What do they say? And this says something about the Buddha. What they say is, oh, Venerable Sir, thank you for coming, yeah. Please just go and meditate on your own, yeah, and we will look after this argument. That's bad, right? How can you say that to the Buddha? That's kind of being disrespectful. If the Buddha is trying to sort you out and help you, it's kind of the wrong way in saying, please go away. You can't say, please go away to the Buddha. That's basically what they were saying. And that's kind of very interesting in its own right, because it says something about the relationship that those people had to the Buddha, which is very different from the relationship we have with the Buddha in the present day. But then, what happens is that the Buddha, eventually he disappears and he goes away. He goes to another monastery and he meets some monks who are living in harmony together. And later on, he comes back to the monks who were arguing, and he gives them a teaching. And this teaching is about the 6 qualities that make for harmony and respect. Actually, he says they make for, the word he uses is piya, for endearment and respect. Yeah, so in the Sangha, ideally, we should be dear to each other and we should respect each other. And the same thing in the Buddhist community, if you want to be dear to each other and you want to respect each other, these are the 6 qualities you should develop. So listen, take it on board, yeah? And these are the 6 things that really are, that the Buddha is talking about, yeah? I will test you next year when I come back, see if you remember these 6 qualities. So we're gonna, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just, or maybe I will actually, yeah? Maybe I should do that. Let's see what happens. So what are these 6 qualities? And the first one, the Buddha says, is that we should always treat each other with acts of loving kindness, of metta, through bodily acts of metta. Yeah, so we should always treat each other with metta. Sometimes in Buddhism we think, you know, sit down in meditation, close your eyes, may all beings be happy, may all beings, you know, and it goes like that. It's often not very successful. It doesn't really touch you in a very deep way. And so we need to start with more basic things. And one of the more basic things is just to act with loving kindness toward each other. So please do that in your life. Show your respect. Show your appreciation. Show your affection to your fellow Buddhist. Yeah. I get a lot of affection when I'm in Singapore. People are really, really kind to me. Just this morning I came here, the first thing I got was a double espresso. Yeah, straight away. They gave me a double espresso. And I was so happy to get that because that kind of gets me going. I can talk longer if I have a double espresso. So, and then soon afterwards comes another cup of coffee. Actually, I shouldn't forget about the kindness. I'm going to have a bit of coffee now, so please excuse me. Yeah. Very good. Okay, just appreciating the kindness of people. Yeah, so we should always do that with each other. Treat each other with kindness. Just simple things like holding the door open for somebody, allowing someone to go first, giving someone a friendly, kind pat on the back, being gentle in our movements. Yeah, sometimes our movements can be harsh and abrupt, or they can be gentle and peaceful. And when they are gentle and peaceful, it's nice to be around us. Yeah, being generous is part of this. All these beautiful acts by body that we can. So be aware of yourself, how you act around other people. Have metta to the Buddhist community and then bring it outside the Buddhist community, to the Christians, to the Muslims, to the so-called free thinkers. Yeah, I'm always very interested. I come to Singapore and ask them, they come to the Dhamma talk, oh no, I'm a free thinker. Yeah, that's what they say here. And I think is that true? Are there any free thinkers here? Yeah. Anyone who's going to own up to the free thinking? Yeah. Any free thinkers? No free thinkers. So you're all bound thinkers. Is that right? You are prison thinkers because you're not free thinkers. So the idea, there's no such thing as free thinking. Yeah, all thinking is conditioned. Or we are all in prison together, whether you are a Buddhist or not. Still are in the same kind of prison. Yeah, the prison of thinking, conditioned by the past. So free thinking, yeah, I don't like that term. You may not be a Buddhist, but you're certainly not a free thinker. Just to make that absolutely clear to you. Yeah. Are you okay with that? I don't mean to kind of to hurt anyone by this, but I'm just saying it because that's kind of the Buddhist idea of the world, the conditioning process. So then we bring that kindness by body out to the whole world. We invite the Rohingyas into our house. We invite the Ukrainians into our house when they need a refuge. And we have this broad kind of, open-mindedness about the people around us. We are not too afraid. Fear will block you from kindness. Fear will stop you from doing what is nice. Why? Because you think, oh, if I invite them into my house, maybe they will steal something from my house. And that stops you from being kind, because you are afraid. But what is more important? Is it to be kind to your fellow human beings? Or is it to avoid all risk at whatever cost? Take risks in life. It is very important to take risks. If you never take any risk in anything, you're never going to go anywhere. Please take some risks. Don't be too afraid of things. When I became a monk, that was a big risk, yeah? You don't know what's going to happen when you become a monk. My parents were not happy. Everyone says I was crazy. Okay, I'm going to take the risk anyway. We have to take risks in life. Otherwise, we don't do anything worthwhile. So please don't be afraid. I was in India recently. We had a very nice trip to India. And I was a little bit disappointed at some people that didn't want to give it to the beggars because they was afraid of what's going to happen. Yeah? Don't be too afraid of these things. Because if you do, you are blocking yourself from actually being able to do acts of kindness in a difficult kind of situation. Anyway, so this is number one, yeah? Do acts of metta by body. Be kind through your actions. Reflect on how you live your life, and you will be able to open up something very beautiful. Number two, do acts of metta through your speech. Yeah, how can you be kind in your speech to the world around you? We can, if we live really well, we can make our speech a gift to the people around us. There are so many ways of giving gifts to people. One of the very powerful ways is the way we speak. If you speak in a way when you are gentle, in a way that produces harmony, bringing people together, instead of saying bad things about others, see the good things in them, understand them, have compassion for them, let go of the grudges and these kind of things, We speak in a way about things that are meaningful, Dhamma, things that actually are meaningful. Then you are adding value to the people around you by doing that. People feel at ease in your presence. This is one of the things I love about my teacher, Ajahn Brahm. I'm in the monastery, and maybe one day I'm feeling a bit grumpy, or things are not very happy or whatever. And so I know Ajahn Brahm is sitting up there having a cup of tea. So I just go up to Ajahn Brahm, and he says, maybe he doesn't say anything at all. I just sit down next to him, and maybe he says, "Oh, how are you?" And he says it always in a very nice way. And so I sit down, and I kind of hang out with Ajahn Brahm for 10 minutes or whatever. Then I feel much better. And then I go off. I get the gift from Ajahn Brahm, the gift of his kindness, coming to me in this way here. So this is really nice. So now the paparazzi has arrived, so I have to. So anyway, so welcome paparazzi. Everyone is welcome here, regardless of what your work is and your job is. Thank you. So make your speech a gift. Think about how you are speaking to others. Are you being gentle? Are you unifying people? Are you saying meaningful things? Are you being absolutely truthful, to the maximum of your ability. Not using truth as a weapon, of course, but being truthful in a good kind of way. So again, you do this to everyone in the world in a very positive way. This becomes very powerful in private and in public, especially towards your fellow Buddhists, but also to the world at large as well, beyond that. That's the second one. The third one is to have loving kindness in your mind, thinking about people in the world with the thoughts of metta and loving kindness. This is where it starts to get really, really challenging. So please try to understand what it means to be a human being. If you understand the nature of human beings, you will never get upset with them. You will always have a sense of either compassion or metta if you understand the nature of human beings. The reason why we have metta is because we see the good actions in the people around us. And in a community such as this, where everyone here is a Buddhist, not even any free thinkers here, so everyone is a Buddhist, there are guaranteed to be many, many, many really good people. So look at that in the people around you. These are people who are, at the very least, they are trying to do something good in the world. There is no way you would come to a talk about Buddhism on Vesak if you weren't a good person. Is that true? I will show you it is true. So this is the proof. So are there any bad people here? I told you everyone here is a good person. So that's the proof of the pudding. So I've just shown you that what the truth is. Everyone here, but it is true, because why would you come to a spiritual talk unless you had a spiritual inclination? So of course everyone here is a good person. At the very least, you are inclining towards something positive. This is how you start to appreciate the people around you, by thinking in this way. This is not a joke. This is actually the true way of looking at people. Of course, even though people are good in some ways, there are also some negative things, perhaps. It's very easy to see the negative things in people. When you see the negative in people around you, have compassion for them. Don't get angry with them. Don't get upset if someone says the wrong thing or does the wrong thing. Have compassion for them. Why? Because they are trapped in those negative qualities. Those negative qualities are not something they choose. It is something that is conditioned into them through the past, through their upbringing, through the past lives or whatever. So whenever you see something negative, don't get angry. Don't have any wrong thoughts. Instead, have compassion for that person because they are trapped by that. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I mean by this? And if you can think like this, because now you're understanding the nature of a human being. We are conditioned beings. We are the way we are, not because we choose to be that way, but because our history, our past lives very important in Buddhism. All of this makes us who we are right now. And if we do something bad, it's not because we want to be bad. We have no choice but to be bad. And if you understand that people have no choice but to be bad, even though they want to be good, then you can have compassion for them. I would like to be good all the time, but sometimes this bad thought comes into my mind. Go away. Conditioning is so strong. So please have compassion for me. So when I say bad things or do something bad, please have compassion for me. Can you promise to do that? Have compassion for each other. I promise also to have compassion for you, if these things happen. Because then we understand what it means to be human. To be human is difficult. We all have suffering in our lives. Is there anyone here who hasn't got enough suffering? Everyone has enough. Actually, everyone has too much suffering already, Behind the facade, on the facade we may look very smiley and very together. Rip away the facade and what you see is suffering in people's lives. So remember that, we are conditioned and we are suffering. Always have compassion for the people around you. There is no need ever to get angry and to get upset. So have a mind of loving kindness to the people around you. So this is factor number 3. Factor number 4, live a life of purity a life where you don't break your precepts, a life where you live as purely as possible. This is called the sila, basically the morality in the life. Yeah, the more beautiful, the more powerful that sila is in your life, the more you're going to live in harmony with the world around you. Because that sila, that not doing bad things, obliges you. It makes you drop that kind of selfishness. Yeah, that is the root cause of the problem. That selfishness is dropped. All of these things are about dropping that selfishness. Point number 5 is generosity. When you are generous in the world, you cannot be selfish at the same time. Generosity, the sense of self goes down every time you are generous. Generosity is a very, very powerful thing in the world. And I will talk more about that after we've had lunch. Are you going to come back after lunch? Yeah, please come back. Yeah, we're going to talk about something very important. Yeah, so I'm just kind of giving you kind of the heads up so you don't disappear after lunch. Yeah, so you're kind of making you come back again. And the last of these 6 factors is the idea of right view, understanding the world in the right way. When we have the right view together, when we kind of understand the world together in roughly the same way, there's a sense of harmony between us. And this is one of the reasons why, as Buddhists, we tend to hang out with other Buddhists, because we have a similar outlook. It doesn't mean that we exclude other people. It just means that when you have a similar outlook, it makes sense to hang out a little bit more together. Yeah, so that right view, where does that come from? It comes from the Buddha. So try to understand more about the Buddhist teachings. The more you understand about these teachings, the more right view you have, and the more integrated you feel into the Buddhist community, and the more you appreciate that community, and the more your life becomes in harmony with others. You are reaching, with right view, the highest kind of harmony that is basically possible within the ordinary world. So that is the idea, the 6 principles of harmony according to the Buddhist teachings. So I encourage you to do your very best to live according to these things. Then you can start to, at the very least, within yourself, you will start to feel harmonious, you will start to feel at peace in the world, and you also, at the same time, become a benefit for the world around you. Yeah, you become like a beacon for others. They will see you, and they will become harmonious as a consequence. One of the extraordinary things about the Buddha, yeah, you read the suttas, and you read how the Buddha affected the world. And when you see how the Buddha affected the world, you realize that you should also try to be a little bit like the Buddha. Can you try to be a little bit like the Buddha? It's hard to be like the Buddha, yeah, because the Buddha is he's the Buddha after all, yeah. It's kind of not easy to be exactly like the Buddha, but we can be a little bit like the Buddha. So how do you do that? Now, one of the things that you see about the Buddha in the suttas is that when the Buddha moves around society after his awakening, people see the Buddha and they say, wow. They don't use the word wow because it's not a Pali word, you know, but they something like that, right? Wow, whoa, what's going on? Yeah? And the reason is because they see a human being who has been transformed. They see someone who is truly peaceful in a very profound way, whose faculties are very clear and very powerful. This is what they see. And so they are attracted to that. And they become the disciples of the Buddha because they see that here is someone who is fundamentally transformed their kind of rough humanity to a very refined and beautiful humanity instead. And then the Buddha, based on that, gets thousands of disciples. In the history of the world, how many Buddhists has there been in the history of the world? Probably billions of Buddhists in the history of the world. All of these are encouraged by the nature of the Buddha, seeing something very beautiful. One of the most important people in human history was the Buddha. You may be surprised to hear this, but I recently saw a historian. He was a European historian. I don't think he is Buddhist. I think he is just an atheist or whatever. He's certainly not a free thinker, but he's, something. And he said, he reckoned maybe the Buddha was the most important person in human history. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? And the reason is because of the effect that the Buddha has on the world around. The Buddha creates peace in the people that he meets. He exudes this power of peace, the power of tranquility, the power of metta, all of these kind of qualities. Yeah? And so this is the power that one person can have in the world. And so if you can be a little bit like the Buddha, yeah, be a small Buddha, a baby Buddha maybe, yeah, so be a baby Buddha, and if you can be a baby Buddha in the world, you can also be a beacon of hope in the world, bring out peace, create a better world, create a better Singapore, create a better Buddha society as a consequence. So if there's anything I would like you to do or determination to make on this Vesak day today is to be that peace that you would like to see in the world. Yeah? Be the thing that you would like to see. That was a great phrase, I think, coined by Mahatma Gandhi. Yeah? You have to be it. And when you are it, then the world will come along as a consequence. And that is the way to harmony with anyone that you meet in your life, with the whole world around you. Yeah. So, that is the Dhamma talk for this morning. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Great. So
thank you, brother.
Just encouraging you in right speech. Yeah, so
Thank you, Ajahn Brahmali.
Yeah.
We have quite a lot of questions and a limited time so that we can have more time practicing in other ways. So I'll try and combine a few questions into one. So the first part is, I think it's about how, Ajahn Brahmali, you told us about how we should be practicing kindness and giving metta to people. But there are several questions that come across as, as Buddhists, when we do that, we come across as submissive and people step all over us. And then there is also all these other people, they can be world presidents or people who are very rude and unkind to us. How do we even practice that metta?
Okay, so this is a very common question, right? People will step all over us. But, sometimes learn from the way Ajahn Brahm is, yeah? No one steps over Ajahn Brahm, I can guarantee you, yeah? Absolutely guaranteed. He knows when to stand his ground and he knows when to give way. And this is also the case for you. So you are kind, but if someone takes advantage of that, if someone doesn't treat you well, then hold back a little bit, withdraw. Don't allow yourself, don't carry on in a kind of negative relationship where people take advantage of you. So then you step back. It doesn't mean that you give up on your compassion and kindness, but you keep it in your heart, inside, rather than expressing it outside. So you know when to express it and you know when to hold back. This is a very important thing. And there will be people in the world who are rude. So you are gentle with them, you are still kind, but you also know that rude people are terrible to be around too much. Yeah, you feel really bad if you hang around rude people too much. So don't spend too much time with rude and difficult people. But when you do spend time with them, then be kind, do the right thing, show them that there is an alternative way of doing things. And sometimes we forget that one of the most important things in the world is the power of example. If you are able to live the example of the Dhamma, you are able to live in that way, actually it will open people's eyes. Okay, some people, you will never open their eyes because it's kind of hopeless, they will never understand. Yeah, it's kind of not going to happen. But some people will, who are ready. And so it shows you that when you keep on doing the right thing over a long period of time, people come around. You touch them somehow in a deep way. Trust that you touch the world in a deep way when you live well. Even if you cannot see it, something goes in behind the facade. And so do what you can. Don't be stupid. Yeah, when the things are difficult, withdraw a little bit. But when you can, when the opportunity opens up, always be kind, because it has a powerful impact on the people around you and also on society at large. Okay, please, next one.
So there are a lot of questions on birds. So I will combine them. Modern life, jobs, and family expects and rewards us to be the stronger birds. And if the solution is to let go of the things we have worked hard to achieve to others, but these things matter to my family, how should I manage that? And how should I manage not getting bullied by the other birds?
Okay, you have to be the one who shows the way in your family, yeah? Sometimes we need people who show the way. Sometimes if we just follow what our parents say or what the elders say, sometimes we don't get anywhere. Sometimes it's good to be a bit rebellious, yeah? So if your parents say, be greedy, yeah, get as much as you can, work really hard and climb the corporate ladder, and then it's okay to be rebellious. It's okay to go in a different direction. And I can tell you that it is very powerful. I did that myself. I guarantee you that my parents did not want me to become a Buddhist monk. It was the last thing they wanted. They were saying, what have we done wrong in our upbringing? You become a Buddhist monk. I said, what? That's what my dad said at one point, yeah, because he was really upset with becoming a Buddhist monk. He wanted me to do all kind of other silly things with my life, so whatever. So I wanted to become a Buddhist monk. And after a while, they came around because they understood that what I was doing was right. They started to understand more about the Dhamma. Yeah, so that is kind of the power of the Dhamma. So everyone needs to be a little bit rebellious in your life, to do things that your parents may not agree with. Do it in a good way. Do it in a kind way. Don't be nasty to your parents, absolutely not. But also take a stand on good principles in your life. If you stand on good principles, no one can ever blame you for that. After a while, your parents may come around. They may say, wow, you were right, daughter. You were right, son. Yeah, you are doing the good thing here. Don't be afraid of being a little bit rebellious. When I say letting go of the piece of meat, I don't mean that we let go in a stupid way. That's not really what I mean. What I mean is that we practice the Noble Eightfold Path. We practice generosity. When you are generous, you are letting go of that meat a little bit. When you act with kindness to the world, you are letting go of that piece of meat, because usually we don't want to be kind. The ego goes in the other direction. When you meditate a little bit and you have some success in meditation, you are letting go of that meat. Yeah. So all I'm saying is that we don't just throw everything away. You can still have a career, you can still do all kinds of things, but you understand the value of the spiritual practice. That is where the meat is given up.
Okay, give me just 1 minute. The screen has locked on me. So in Mangala Sutta, it's mentioned to not associate with the foolish. Doesn't this lead to judging and differentiating our behavior? How do we do this while still maintaining harmony with others?
Okay, yes, you have to judge. Yeah, judging is important. This is what we do. When you decide to become a Buddhist, you are making a judgment. Yeah, the Buddha was this, so you become a Buddhist. When you go and listen to a talk by Ajahn Brahm, but not to some other monk, you are making a judgment. Whatever you do, life is full of judgments. We have to make judgments. Yeah, this is just part of the world. But judgment does not mean that you are looking down on the other people. Judgment just means that you know what is going to be the most beneficial for you. That's really all it means. And then the other people who don't understand, instead of looking down upon them, you have a sense of compassion. Yeah, you understand that they have been conditioned in a certain way. They don't appreciate the Dhamma. They don't appreciate a good Dhamma talk, whatever it might be. And so you have a sense of compassion. And you realize that maybe down the track, they will be more wise than you. And when you realize they will be more wise than you can't really look down upon them. Yeah, in your next life, you may be that poor person who is going in the wrong direction. In your past life, you may have been that person. In the next life, things are always changing around. We're always swapping places. You are not inherently better just because you understand and they don't. This is not how the world works. We're always changing around. So never be conceited. Judgment is not about conceit. Judgment is about trying your very best to move in the right direction in your life. Yeah? This is fundamentally important. Please judge, but don't look down upon others. That is the right way of thinking about this.
So since this is Vesak, I will raise two questions about practice. The first question is, dear Ajahn, can you advise, is it more important for us to go for talks and learn Buddhism or practice meditation?
What was the first one?
Is it more important to go for talks and learn Buddhism?
Yeah. So they go together. They are not separate things. Yeah, these things, all the factors of the Noble Eightfold Path are important. Meditation is only one factor on the Noble Eightfold Path. Samma sati, right mindfulness, and samma samadhi, right stillness. Two factors. The rest of the path also needs to be developed. One of the most important factors of the path is right view. Yeah, right view is at the foundation of everything else. It is the beginning of the path. Without right view, there is no path at all. How do you get that right view? Understanding the word of the Buddha. You can read the suttas directly. You can come to good Dhamma talks, but only go to the good ones. Yeah, don't go to the bad ones. Yeah, only go to good Dhamma talks. Yeah, by good Dhamma talk, I mean those that align with the suttas, align with the way the Buddha taught. That is the good Dhamma talks. So please do that, because it gives you right view. And if you have the right view, your meditation will improve. Yeah, these things go together. These are not separate things. And so the idea of a good Dhamma talk is to inspire you, is to make you understand what is truly valuable. If you have your values right, when you sit down and meditate, you become peaceful pretty much straight away. Because your value is that the spiritual path matters. And if you know how the spiritual path matters, you don't think about all of those other things that don't matter. There's nothing to think about anymore. And bang, you just go into good meditation right away. The reason why it is hard is because our values sometimes aren't aligned with the way the Buddha saw the world. So do both. Do everything on the path. The right view is not a yes or no proposition. Right view itself is something that develops over time. Yeah, you start to understand things in a deeper way. And as you understand things in a deeper way, the right view gets purified. Then it helps the sila, it helps the meditation, it helps the thinking process, and all of these things become aligned with the path as a consequence. Okay.
Thank you, Ajahn. We're at 11:15, so I'll skip the last question. But as Ajahn mentioned earlier on, there is episode 2 this afternoon. He offered his own trailer about generosity. So do join us in the second half of the day for today. And with that, let's say 3 sadhus and pay our respects to Ajahn. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And 3 bows.